Trump's Easter message to Iran and the world. We've seen it by now. Quote, Tuesday will be Power Plant Day and Bridge Day all wrapped up in one in Iran. There will be nothing like it. Open the fleet, free yourself, straight, you crazy bastards, or you'll be living in hell. As the president posted at 8:03 a.m. Easter morning. Now, there's been plenty of criticism, but the president is standing by his wartime Easter message.
Why did you use such vulgar language in that True Social post?
Only to make my point. I think you've heard it before.
What is your response to critics who say it is your mental health that should perhaps be examined as this war continues?
I haven't heard that. But if that's the case, you're going to have more people like me, because our country was being ripped off on trade, on everything, for many years until I came along.
I'm bringing our political panel tonight. Senior political commentators Karen Finney and Shermichael Singleton. Let's begin here because Shermichael, former Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, whose seat is up for election tomorrow, we should point out, called that Trump has, quote, gone insane. Why do you think he sent this kind of message? Is it playing to his base? Is it somehow a message that's not to reflect desperation, but the irritation of more to come?
I'm certain the president is irritated. I would have presumed he thought this would have been a much quicker process similar to Venezuela. Here we are over a month, maybe we're looking at 2 months.
So why show, is there a risk to showing that irritation as
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's going to really move the needle in terms of the Iranian regime. As your interview with the professor dictated, I read his article, and I think the professor made a lot of very clear points in terms of the power dynamics here. And if you look at it from Iran's perspective, you look at some of the president's statements, maybe you view it as bluster, but you know you can have a real impact on the insurers who insure the ships that go through that route. You know that you can bring to standstill the economies in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait, etc. So while the U.S. is dropping millions, hundreds of millions of dollars worth of munitions, they have drones at $50,000 a build. You blow up a ship here and there, that's enough to completely freak out a lot of nations. And so I think from our perspective, the only way you can probably open this thing up is by having boots on the ground. And politically, my question becomes, what is the appetite for that, not only with independents, but also within our own party, where you are seeing some fractured from the MAGA base to sort of more moderate, mainstream Republicans.
Michael, it's fascinating. The word bastard wasn't used, effing wasn't used. Hell, I mean, he articulated a position. You would think maybe a commander-in-chief may have done so, but it's not. He did not. And the thing is, I'm not a pearl clutcher. I'm not going to suggest that, these are the worst words I've ever heard in my life. I'm not. I wonder if Democrats will overplay their hand, though, and think themselves, this is enough. The 25th Amendment has been called for already. We know that's not going to happen. It's either voluntary handing over or involuntary. You have to have the majority of your cabinet and the VP. That's not going to happen. But describe to me why you think this is such a consequential statement he's made during a war.
Because 1,000% he has just signaled to the Iranians that they've gotten under his skin. Because there was no way, never, ever, if you know anything about basic geopolitics, that what happened in Venezuela was going to be a model for Iran. Having traveled to the Middle East on several occasions and spoken with a number of experts, we have to remember, we think in decades, they think in hundreds of years. They're like, we'll wait you out for 100 years if we have to. They have a very different perspective about time.
So that we have 30-something days in, under his skin, is a sign to them of what?
Is a sign that all they have to do is just keep waiting him out, and that they know they can control the dynamics through the Strait of Hormuz. And not to mention, within these various comments, he does it. Last week he told us he didn't care about the Strait of Hormuz, and we could end the war without dealing with the Strait of Hormuz. But then clearly he's upset about it. So because he can't get his own message straight. And look, here's the other thing.
I want to phrase it.
Yeah.
He has been commenting today about the idea of his message may not be clear to the media, but he's not going to tell the media his plans. What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, you know what? That's also not how grown-up diplomacy works. Because here's the thing: you're asking our allies to have to figure out and read the tea leaves of what he means. When part of the reason that diplomacy, and particularly in a time of war, the words actually matter, is because there is an understanding that without me having to tell you what I'm signaling, you understand what I'm signaling. important that it also just shows he's so out of his depth. Like he's treating this like it's a real estate deal, and it's not. We're talking about global economies. We're talking about hundreds of millions of lives that will be impacted. We're talking about very real consequences for everything he utters. And so, and do you need to be vulgar? You don't. Is the other reality there?
Should he be held to a different standard? This is obviously, frankly, his tactics, his rhetoric, known before he became a candidate, as a candidate, and elected twice.
Yeah.
Is it the fact that we're in a war? Is it different? Should it be?
I don't think the vulgarity really matters. I think what matters.
Even in wartime.
No, I don't think it matters. I think what matters to the American people is quite simple. We're in this conflict. What is the price? What does winning look like? When is this coming to an end? And if the president's onus or premise of his message is we have to open up the strait, and obviously the regime is unwilling
But he's also said we don't have to open up the strait in order to win.
then I think the only alternative is to have boots on the ground. And the political question for that is there an appetite where Republicans can keep the House? What does this look like in terms of the Senate? You have a very tough race in Texas where up to $200 million may have to be spent.
What's the answer? Is there an appetite?
There isn't.
There
isn't an appetite. And so I think if you're advising the president, you're looking at the slew of races that the party has to try to maintain in the House, protect in the Senate. You're advising the president to try to find a conclusion to this as quickly as possible to move on to focus on some of the economic issues that Karen just cited.
That was a very long answer. Very quickly, let me just say, the other danger for Trump is every moment he's talking about this and the possibility of boots on the ground, he's not talking about the American people or reining in the economy.
I want to talk about Artemis. Karen, Shermichael, thank you both so much. Still